Ladies and gentlemen, it's good to stick with what you know. Scott Atkins knows how to fight. Cinematic class is about to begin, and your professor is in. Greetings, salutations, another sundry affair. I am your cinematic professor and purveyor of truth in movies, and tonight's lesson plan is a film called Prisoner of War. It's a World War II adventure brought to us from the fine folks at WWII USA. And as I said, it stars Scott Atkins. Here at Outtakes, we like Scott Atkins. He's put together a nice collection of films. Some, yeah, you can leave by the wayside, but there's a lot of them that are worthwhile. I still think some of his best are the trilogy he did where he played the character Yuri Boyka. This was he was a Russian fighter, and that trilogy was largely outstanding. It had some pretty good stories and excellent fighting. This story has excellent fighting too, as an also. But before I tell you about it, let me tell you about all the wonderful things that you can get at the official Rex Reel store. Big sale going on now between 25 and 40% off all the nifty little items that will make your life successful and happy. Yes, that includes pillowcases, pillows, bed sheets, clocks, all the neat stuff you see here, plus a whole lot more. Visit the store today online. Check it out. The official Rex Reel store. You're not going to find stuff like this anywhere else, just in the Rex Reel store. There you go. So let's talk back to Prisoner of War. Prisoner of War is basically a payback. Okay? Uh, Louis Mandalore makes an awful lot of movies. I've reviewed a ton of them here on the not only on the websites but on the TV show as well. And he's become a staple of these the schlocky action films, and he does a good job. Well, now he's getting his feet wet behind the camera, so to speak. And Louis Mandalore is the director of Prisoner of War. Now, it was just a short few years ago that Louis Mandalore teamed up with Scott Atkins in a movie called Debt Collector. It was a really good action. They did a follow up to it because it was so well received. And the follow up was called Debt Collectors. You put an S on the end there, and that's how they made the sequel. Both of those movies were fine. In fact, if I remember correctly, Debt Collectors had a lot of laughs in it. It was one of those action comedy adventures, like a buddy picture, and they were quite enjoyable. So they became friends. They knew each other. Louis was going to do his, directing duties here for this movie, and asked Scott to come in and play the main protagonist. And that's how you make friends in Hollywood, the paybacks. And Scott Atkins is in this movie. Should probably tell you some of the other people that are in this as well. Let's do that now. Scott plays Jamie Wright, who is a captured prisoner of war. Ito, the Japanese commander who runs the prison camp, is played by Peter Shinkoda. Does a nice job in this. Sergeant Villanueva is played by Michael Copon. He's kind of like through the trials and tribulations of the prisoners of war. Uh, Michael is like right hand man to Scott and what he's planning to do. And then we do have one little female interest in this, Teresa. She is played by Gabby Garcia. She's one of the nurses who was forced to take care of the prisoners in the Japanese camp. This movie is not one of the better written stories that Scott Adkins has been in. The writer for this movie was Mark Klebanoff, and it's pretty much a standard action POW, not a whole lot of in the storyline. Do you remember back a few decades, Chuck Norris had a really big hit with a movie called Missing in Action, and what they did was that they made a series of, I think, maybe 4 of them. The second one, Missing in Action 2, detailed Chuck's adventures as he was a prisoner of war during the Vietnam War. If you've seen that movie, this one is not going to offer you anything different other than instead of Vietnam, it was World War II, and they're prisoners in a Japanese camp. Okay, so there are a couple of things that, they kind of tell you that this movie never really takes itself seriously. Okay, and one of those things is that if you remember back, again, going back a few decades, there was a TV show called Hogan's Heroes. Bob Crane was and Sergeant Schultz. Okay. This Japanese prisoner of war camp is set up pretty much like a Hogan's Heroes camp. These prisoners, they come in and out of the camp willy-nilly. Nobody ever seems to capture them or anything. They have a communication system set up and everything. It's not quite as silly as Hogan's Heroes, but there are times when it comes really, really close to being that. And then another, the Japanese were a very formidable enemy, but you wouldn't know it by looking at this movie. None of the Japanese ever wins a fight, and I don't care if the fight is a hand-to-hand combat fight, a knife fight, a gun fight. It doesn't matter. They don't win anything. And you look at this and you wonder, my God, how did these people even get into the war? So that was a bit of a stretch. There has to be a little give and take in these things. And then when you least expect it, Godzilla. I kid you not. During the big climax fight scene at the end, and all hell is breaking loose in the camp, and Sergeant Villanueva is a big boy, and he squares off against one of these Japanese the Japanese prison guard that he was the guy that was always the nasty guy and always doing mean things, and the two of them square off. Well, the size difference is absolutely it's noticeable. It's very noticeable. And so as soon as they square off and start the fight, Louis Mandylor inserts Godzilla's roar in one of the audio tracks, and you can hear Godzilla's famous roar as these two square off and fight. I thought, oh my God, I can't believe it. It was kind of fun when he did it, but it takes away from the gravitas of the situation, so to speak.
Unfriendly's closing in fast from the west. Brace for impact. You boys take cover. Look out!
中佐連れてきました
Sleep well. Tomorrow, you die.
So the Brits, are they coming to liberate us or what?
We have to.
An example must be made.
Ito puts all the people who misbehave center stage.
Fight to the death. You will keep fighting.
Oh, I'll keep fighting. You can keep lining up your men. Eventually, you'll just run out of warriors. They're coming.
We are at war.
We are prisoners of war. There are rules.
Let me give you the names of some of the other people behind the scenes in this one. As I said, Louis Mandylor is the director. The writer was Mark Klebanoff, and he, like I said, does not offer really anything new and exciting. Everything's pretty much run of the mill and template, and you know where everything's going. There's no surprises. Director of photography was Nicola De La Fere, and fine job, yeoman job, no big problems. Editor was Austin Nordell, and they do a good job in keeping this in about 90 minutes, so everything works out good behind the camera. I also want to mention Alvin Singh. He is the fight coordinator, and folks, he has done a great job in this movie. He really does. These fight scenes are worth the price of admission. They are. There's a lot of them, and you can forgive and even forget about the rather mundane plot because the fight scenes are so good. Now, there's another thing I'll say about Scott Adkins. Depending on the character he plays, he changes and adapts his martial arts style on celluloid. And I've always liked this about him. If he's playing a character that is in Japan, he'll adapt his style so that it's very much a Japanese martial arts. If he's in the Philippines or Indonesia, he'll adapt again and use a lot of Muay Thai, Kali Eskrima techniques. China, he'll use China. He can adapt that way. It's really, he has a scene where he fights Donnie Yen in one of Donnie Yen's epic Ip Man movies. I think it was the third one. And he's supposed to be, the rogue agent comes in and he adapts his style to go against Donnie Yen or Ip Man's Wing Chun style, and it's good. It's done well. He can adapt his martial art that way and make it look like the character that he is portraying. And in this one, he's British. He's part of the British Air Force Special Services, and he's the enigma because the Japanese can't figure out what kind of fighting style he is. He's not the typical British soldier. He's fighting differently. And then through the course of the story, they explain to you a little bit about where his background came from and how he learned some of these Japanese techniques, which only Japanese should know, and they're chagrined that he knows them. And it all goes back to that. Remember that magical punch, the one punch they could kill? I think they made a band out of a 5-finger death punch. Isn't that a band or something? Yeah. So that all comes into play in this movie as well. So Alvin did a really good job in putting these fight scenes together. They look really, really good. And for those of you that enjoy action fight scenes, this movie is going to be an awful lot of fun. We're going to give it a grade that's a little bit better than average. The story does drag it down a little bit. Some of the things that happen in there are very tongue-in-cheek. So they'll serve to give you a laugh or two. But the fight scenes are good enough, and there are plenty of them that'll pull you up to where you go, oh, that was fun. And now that you have learned what you have learned, here endeth your lesson.